Well, hi there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Also, I love you and God loves you, and enjoy the video. Okay, enjoy the video. Oh, howdy ho there, everybody. How are we doing today? Hope you're all doing absolutely peachy keen, fantastic, full of the love of the Lord and all that good stuff. Today, I'm working on some dorm rooms. These are going to be for monks and people who need to stay in the temple type area. Because you want to make sure that everybody has a nice place to stay. Just like, actually, here, I'll show you. Whoop. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about how, uh, you know, a very important spiritual practice is forgiveness. We often, you know, it's kind of a cliche to say, oh, yeah, love your enemies and things like that. I mean, Jesus said it because, important and all that good stuff. But, we often forget that, like, forgiveness really is like a core teaching of spiritual practice. You need to be able to move past the little things in your life that bother you. You need to be able to go past the things that make it so that there's our friend's castle. We built a castle. Whip. Yeah, I planted all this wheat so that people could always have wheat supplies. There's a couple hundred blocks of wheat there. But yeah, it's kind of like how you're supposed to leave like some of the kernels on the wheat bits so that people can pick them if they're poor and things like that, or if they're in a bad situation. So that this stuff here is all for that kind of stuff. Hello. And yeah, also there's a lot of chickens in there. I'm Cat. Indeed, I am Cat. This forgiveness is so important because it's like they say in the prayer of Saint Francis: "It is in forgiving that we are forgiven." It's not just a practice that helps out the person that we're forgiving. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, I don't want to forgive because, they don't deserve it. It's like, well, although I don't necessarily think that's true, a much bigger part of it is that you deserve forgiveness. You deserve to be able to move past things and have, you know, uh, your own things forgiven, your own issues forgiven, and to know that you are loved and that you can move past silly Billy iniquities and things like that. I don't think if I want to put a window, like, I was kind of thinking like for privacy's sake, rather we'll just have like the window that goes outside, and then like yeah, I think we might just do that, and then like have like a certain number of beds to a room, and then like big rooms just for the monks who like they're just gonna share rooms or whatever, but smaller rooms for like guests, and maybe we'll have like kind of a separate area. This might be like just for monks. Have not quite decided yet, but go. Yeah, you know, sometimes we think, oh, I'll forgive when I'm ready to forgive, and that can be true to a certain extent. It can be hard sometimes to forgive things that people have done to you, and just, sometimes we find ourselves just going like, why should I forgive that person? They did something really bad to me, or they did something that I really didn't appreciate, and they showed their true colors and things like that. But sometimes we truly need to forgive as well, just so that we can move on. You know, I often meet people who are spiritual seekers, or we talk about being spiritual seekers who uh, are kind of stuck, right? They're kind of stuck in certain things. And one of the big things I've found is that it's often because they're unwilling to forgive and move past certain things. They're they're trying to make this thing about them and their uh desire to, you know, be in control of things. It's often about this desire being like, no, I control when it's time to forgive. No, I have this right, this agency to do this as I see fit. And, on a certain level, that is kind of understandable, but ultimately we need to recognize that I think I like the green bed, I think. And that this practice, it helps us I don't want to cover just be a little more spaced on that one side. It doesn't have to be we want to sit there and we want to be like, oh well, no, they haven't earned my forgiveness yet. And sometimes the question that I end up having to ask is, what exactly would someone have to do to earn your forgiveness? Sometimes it's as simple as apologizing. And fair enough. But sometimes it gets really complex, where it's like, well, they have to do XYZ and they have to prove that they've changed and they have to do X, Y. It's like, yes, I understand why we would maybe say something like that. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes, sometimes it's better to simply forgive, to move on. It's better to get past these difficulties, to get past these feelings of kind of being owed. Like, oh, I'm owed an apology. Oh, I'm owed this. I'm owed that someone has to treat me in a particular way, and you should be treated well. But the reason Jesus tells us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute you, it's not like for their sake, it is for our sake. We have to be able to move on. And we have to understand that simply sitting there and trying to force these things, trying to make it so that, like, no, it's not done until I get exactly what I want. Sometimes that's simply, you know, being kind of needy in a way, actually. To constantly hold yourself up, hold up your spiritual progress, to hold up your ability. I'm gonna like store some like stuff for like the rooms like here, I think. Um, to not be willing to move on because your exact needs are not met as you see them. That your wants, the things that you hold so personally important, are not currently getting done exactly in the way that you need them to be done or the way you feel you need them to be done. Well, sometimes that's just vanity. That's going out of your way and saying that, no, I'm the one that's important here. I'm the one that, you know, has to be taken care of. And there is definitely reasons to still want to be taken care of. I'm not saying that you should completely deny yourself and deny any right. But on the spiritual path, one of the things that you learn is that sacrifice is incredibly important. In that, oh, I didn't answer him. Yeah, maybe I don't really know what I would have him do. But sometimes it's good to just give somebody something to do. Um, to have it's kind of like when people are like looking for a spiritual teacher, and sometimes you'll find that they've been looking for like 20, 30 years, and you ask the question, well, why haven't you found one, you think? And it's like, well, I deserve the best guru. And it's like, I mean, for me personally, I'm not really a big proponent of gurus in general. I think that they're very good in some cases, but there's also definitely times when they are not helpful, to say the least. But it's like vanity of vanities. I have to have the perfect, the best. I have to have only the thing that is, like lauded above all others. I can't just have a guru. I have to have a master guru. I have to have the person who's going to be perfect for me in my situation. And sometimes it's just a matter of, I mean, sure, you can want that. It's understandable to a certain extent, but you know, I kind of like the lanterns up. I like the glowstone too, but we'll do some lanterns in here. Yeah, I like the lighting it gives off. And then what we're gonna do? No, space it out again. Sometimes you have to accept the situation for what it is, and like it's like that old phrase: "Wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up first." There's a certain amount of truth to that. If you just sit there stubbornly trying to make everything fit to the way you want to make it fit to, if you don't forgive until your demands are met, I think you will often find that your demands will never truly be met, and that there will always be some excuse for why, oh, they didn't do it exactly the way I wanted them to do it, or they didn't approach me exactly the way I wanted them to approach me. There's a time when you have to sacrifice your expectations, when you have to sacrifice your own vanity, so that you can forgive, so that you can move on, so that you can grow. There are times when you have to sacrifice, like, your own ideals of what you think should be required of someone. There's times when you just realize that people are also just human. People can apologize and be sincere in that apology. And then because of their own foibles, their own uh, issues, their own upbringing, their own understanding, they can later on do something very similar again. If it's really, really bad, if it's something that is like, like murder, like, oh, they say that they're your friend, and then they uh, like cheat on your, or like they like have sex with your partner or something like that, like something crazy like that, like yeah, then it's a little bit more understandable to be like, maybe not. I mean, or to forgive but not put them back into your life. But there's also times when you just gotta let it go, because if you're just letting yourself get held back by every little iniquity in life, you'll never get anywhere. You have to move on. You have to. Or be stuck in these situations forever, wondering why you're not making the progress you want to make, wondering why it seems like things aren't going your way, wondering when will I get my vision of God? When will I get my understanding? It's like, well, part of it is the practice of sacrifice. Part of it is the practice of trying to understand that sometimes you just gotta go with it. I'm just gonna cover up this glowstone. Just put the lanterns there so it looks similar. Yeah, like that. And that sometimes, you know, the most mature thing you can do is walk away. The most mature thing you can do is say, I forgive you, and to simply go on to your next task. It's a sign of maturity, and it's also a sign. This is the way I'm spacing these. Perfect spot. I think that sometimes you're just gonna have to move on past these difficulties. Not I mean, Jimmy Dean. Oops, didn't mean to do that, but that's okay. Anyway, I just wanted to share that while I was building some norms. I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful time, and I hope you know that God loves you and I love you, and that you should forgive the people in your life, move on past your own iniquities, move on past your vanity. And if you've been hurt, understand that it's still okay to forgive, but that doesn't necessarily mean you always have to let that person back into your life. Not I mean, Jimmy Dean. Have a great one. Bye-bye. God love you.